Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It's Rock and Roll Spectrum Action with another Mutant Monday. I honestly can't remember if I said this or not in last week's video, but so starting this week for the next few months, the Mutant Monday will be an in-depth overview of the previous week's issue of either House of X or Powers of X. In this case, as House of X #1 came out this past Wednesday, today will be an in-depth overview of House of X #1. So this is the beginning. This is something of a restart point of sorts for the X-Men. Not to say that everything that came before doesn't matter. It all still does. But yeah, this is what's interesting is a lot of people are commenting about, myself included, that this is actually an excellent jumping on point. Yet it's written by Jonathan Hickman, who's not exactly known for being easily accessible to new readers. But anyway, so we open up with the quote, "Humans of the planet Earth, while you slept, the world changed." This is credited to Professor X. And then next we see Xavier with his mobile Cerebro helmet on in what appears to be the hatchery of Krakoa. Hatching, and with coming out of the eggs, or whatever they are, at least Jean and Scott, possibly others, and Xavier says to them, "To me, my X-Men." So we then get a 5 months ago in Krakoa, we see Colossus picking a flower. In Westchester, 4 months ago, we see Storm holding one. 3 months ago, in the blue area of the moon, we see, I think, Iceman planting a flower. 2 months ago on Mars, we see Armor planting a flower. 1 month ago in Savage Land, the Beast does the same. 3 weeks ago in Washington, D.C., Shadowcat and Lockheed also do the same. 2 weeks ago in Jerusalem, the Stepford Cuckoos also plant flowers. And now, at the Jerusalem Habitat, a group of ambassadors show up. From various countries. Apparently, Charles Xavier is offering a drug that extends human life by 5 years, another that prevents diseases of the mind, and a third that is the most effective adaptive antibiotic the world has ever seen. But these 3 drugs come with a price. That price is the recognition of Krakoa as a sovereign state. And not all of the ambassadors are too keen on that. However, yeah, it's a group of 4 ambassadors with there's a handful of ambassadors. So yeah. However, another thing that has everyone a little apprehensive is the idea of giving all mutants amnesty, or granting all mutants amnesty for crimes or previous crimes. Now, you might not think much of that, but keep in mind, you've got people like Sabretooth, Mystique, hell, Magneto, who have committed quite a few crimes in the name of mutant, and are all mutants, and thusly would have their records wiped clean. Apocalypse, same thing. Not that it would really concern Apocalypse, but you know, he's never actually been arrested, so you know. But yeah. So that's also something of note. So the ambassadors walk into the habitat are greeted by Sophie and Esme Cuckoo. Sophie comments that she's thinking of taking another name. And they bring the ambassadors to their fellow the Krakoan ambassador, Magneto. As Xavier is otherwise engaged. Now we get a quick breakdown of the flowers of Krakoa, explaining that the mutant island of Krakoa, which is where Giant X-Men #1 takes place, which is actually one of the big moments in in X-Men history that was brought up in all of the a lot of the ads for this in Powers of X. The mutant island of Krakoa is not just the home of mutants and the seat of their nation state. It is also the only known producer of the primary economic resource of the mutant nation, the flowers of Krakoa. There's human drug L. It extends the life of a human for 5 years. Human drug I produces an adaptive universal antibiotic, super drug for humans. And then human drug M produces a drug that cures diseases of the mind in humans. That's something that could actually, prevent or could stop Alzheimer's, which is it's actually kind of amazing. I really just kind of thought of that now, like that's actually, yeah. For mutants, however, there's also the gateways. This flower grows a gateway, a pathway from where one is planted to its twin gateway on Krakoa. Then there's the habitat. It produces a habitat, a self-sustaining environment, a biome that is part of the interconnected consciousness of Krakoa. And finally, no place. Non-naturally occurring flower produces a habitat that exists outside the collective consciousness of Krakoa. A place within the island ecosystem that Krakoa doesn't know exists. A Krakoan tumor. Okay. So, at the Greymalkin habitat in Westchester, the remains of Xavier of the X-Mansion, Jean Grey is bringing students through a gateway and explains that not everyone can travel through a gateway. Any mutant can, as Krakoa recognizes its own, but anyone or anything that isn't a mutant must be accompanied by one. She also adds that even then we ask for permission. Krakoa being a sentient being and whatnot, they're like, hey, can I use your gateway? And she explains it's very important to have good manners. Banshee is also shown standing beside the gateway. Though from a distance, so we can't tell if he's still zombified or not. Apparently the gateway, there's a control center for the gateways, which is being overseen by Sage and Cypher. Sage we haven't seen in a long while, actually. And this explains who's who, and who's coming through the gateways, so to speak. We have Wrench, Sandra Yo, Sonos Rex, Robert Wynn, Banshee, Sean Cassidy, Fauna, Desmond Ochoa Diaz, and of course Marvel Girl, Jean Grey. And it should be noted also that Cypher has a techno-organic arm, which looks to be as though it was a remnant of his friend and former teammate Warlock. Xavier and Xavier and Wolverine are playing with some of the students, and Xavier telepathically welcomes Jean home, explaining that she's safe here, and they all are. We also get a map of the island. There's the island itself. Part of those are a few spots of interest on it. One is the House of X, which appears to be on the interior of the island, but still the western portion of the interior. 2, House of M, on the eastern part of the island. 3 is Armor Magna, and that is more we'll call it northern center. 4 is the Arena, which is adjacent to Armor Magna. Next is the Academos habitat, which is further north of the island. 6 is Transit, which is, we'll call it central eastern portion, but closer to the north center. 7 is the Oracle, which is also seems to be close to where to Transit. The 8, we have the Grove, which is actually near the Academos habitat, though slightly further north. 9 is the Cradle, which is actually a little south and west of House of X. Presumably, the Cradle is the hatchery mentioned earlier. 10 is the Reservoir, which is on the furthest west point the furthest west point point of interest on the island, I should say. 11 is the Wild Hunt, which is slightly north and to the west or east of the Reservoir. And 12, the southernmost point denoted, closer to the actual center of the island, is the Carousel. Though the Carousel is also slightly closer to the eastern shore than the western shore. We then transitions to space. The ship is arriving at a station which appears to be orbiting the sun. The station is called the Forge. It's built on the bones of a planet killer, and the captain of the ship says that the Forge is their best to survive the coming days. The ship's captain also says that the Forge is a Hail Mary for humanity. So the ship docks at the Forge, and some of its passengers board the Forge, apparently wearing AIM spacesuits, which are modified versions of the classic AIM beekeeper suit. The group is met by Karima Shapendar, formerly known as the X-Men Omega Sentinel. Who's apparently their group's machine liaison. And we also just get kind of the breakdown of the Forge. created by a group called Orcus. When the Orcus protocols were activated, Karima and various others were activated, and the automated refit of the station began. Though, since the refit is finished, so all the machines that were present are now excavating heavy metals on Mercury. And if more are needed, they can be made, as apparently the forge or orbit is built around the head of Master Mold, a sentient sentinel creator. And now we get a breakdown of Orcus Protocol. Orcus Protocol. Initial establishment of Doomsday Network based on evolutionary research regarding the extinction level population density of Homo sapiens superior. C. The Cro-Magnon Problem by Dr. Elliot Gregor. Recruitment of assets in strategic organizations, AIM, SHIELD, Strike, SWORD, Alpha Flight, Hammer, Armor, and Hydra, as well as funding from black budgets and other human-centric financial considerations. Absorption and adaptation of various Doomsday assets into next-generation infrastructure built for Doomsday. Operating under the premise that there are 3 areas of concern: population, financial, territorial. Orcus assets establish watchdog programs to observe, undetected, mutant influence. 2 years ago, observation begins. During the observation, where's the observation period? 1 year ago, population alert. Instances of X gene activation have spiked along with the re-emergence of established mutant alpha types long observed as active in the mutant cause. 6 months ago, financial alert. Long observed shell companies wholly owned by the mutant activist Charles Xavier quietly purchased the seventh largest pharmaceutical company in the world and recently announced 3 new drugs which are poised to destabilize that industry and spread throughout global financial sectors. 2 months ago, territorial alert. The mutant nation of Krakoa is established, and so the observation ends. Orcus Protocol is enacted. Now, the Cro-Magnon Problem by Dr. Alia Gregor began as a humanitarian research into mutant population following the Genoshan genocide, which resulted in the deaths of over 16 million mutants. Dr. Gregor postulated that, despite best efforts, mutantdom would not be able to repopulate to significant enough numbers to become the eventual dominant species of Homo sapiens on Earth, due to factors including environmental, technological, and specific scientific advancements in genetic engineering and artificial intelligence. What she found disproved her theory. Not only were mutants repopulating and reappearing at a higher rate than expected, but a regression analysis of previous growth patterns of mutants revealed that, if not for Genosha, mutants would have become the dominant species on Earth within 10 years due to cascading biological and cultural mutant-positive variables. What Genosha bought mankind was time that they didn't know they didn't have. Dr. Gregor's new timeline suggests that humanity has 20 years left. Now, the Orcus is made up 31% of AIM personnel, 24% from SHIELD, 16% from Strike, 8% from SWORD, 7% from Alpha Flight, 5% from Hammer, 5% from Armor, and 4% from Hydra. Command structure. The director of Orcus is Strike Agent Killian Devo. Head of engineering is Zaha Gary of Alpha Flight. Military command is Colonel Walker Kinn of SHIELD. Science command being Dr. Aaliyah Gregor of AIM. And then there's the machine liaison, Karima Shapindar, also, as I said, also known as Omega Sentinel. After that, we transition to damage control in New York, a contested storage facility. This also brings up an odd question. But as it turns, as Toad, Mystique, and Sabretooth are trying to hack into servers, hack into damage a database and steal combined databases of not one but 2 of the smartest people in the world. Copy what's needed from them, and make good their escape. So basically, from Tony Stark and Reed Richards, Now, it's explained that damage control, while this corporate entity traditionally serves in a quarantine or repair rebuild capacity, damage control also operates as the archival unit for government contested metahuman machinery and technology that belongs to missing, incapacitated, or deceased individuals where either a clear chain of custody does not exist or the items in question pose an existential threat to the United States. Current inventory in the damage control contested storage facilities made up almost exclusively of advanced schematics and disassembled material created or owned by Reed Richards and Tony Stark. In the recent past, both Stark and Richards have gone to great lengths to ensure that their technology did not fall into the hands of entities like damage control. But their normal avenue of evasion, leaving control of their intellectual property to each other, failed when Richards was missing for a prolonged period of time and Stark was presumed dead. Rights to all current material are being contested. There are a list of security items. There's also a list of security items, but for level 5, Soul's Anvil, Soul's Hammer, the Bridge, Iron Man's Mark 5, 6, 7, and 8, Rescue's Mark 1 and 2, Anti-Proton Sling, and Multiversal Beacon. Okay. Back with the ambassadors. They are in the gateway of the habitat. And traveling through other gateways. I would say seeing various other mutants in various other locations. One of the ambassadors mentions that the military aspects of everything will have to be discussed. Explaining that the inherent advantages of being able to move an army any distance without being seen, well, it basically throws out a few thousand years of military strategy. And people are probably going to have a problem with it. Magneto, however, says, where the ambassador sees an instrument of war, he sees it an unassailable refuge. Which is quite the difference. The ambassador says, that's some would say that's semantics. Either way, it's an advantage. And Magneto actually makes a fairly good point. There has never been a mutant war. Mutants have never conquered a people, stolen their land, or made slaves of the vanquished. That's their real advantage. Again, I kind of have to at least slightly contest this, as Magneto himself did once conquer a country and take it over for mutant kind. One of the other ambassadors asked when they would be going to Krakoa, and it's explained that they won't be going there. When asked why not, Magneto explains that you've heard Xavier's offer, and while mutants are the inheritors of the world, all of it, they are claiming it. But instead of claiming it, they are giving it to humans, keeping only a small portion for themselves. The island is theirs and theirs alone. Man is not welcome there. Back in New York, the Fantastic Four is fighting off Sabretooth, Mystique, and Toad. Mystique and Toad manage to make it through one of the portals. However, Invisible Woman stops Sabretooth from getting through. Then Cyclops comes through, speaks with the Richards family, and then basically, kind of say, he's got amnesty, so let him go. and they talk about what this means. However, it's also decided that the AFF can keep Sabretooth for now, and they'll deal with it some other time in some other way. Cyclops then explains to Invisible Woman that his family has spent their entire lives being hunted and hated. The world has told him that he was less when he knew that he was more. And then he asks if she honestly thought that they were going to sit around forever and just take it. He then also said, asked Invisible Woman to greet Franklin Richards for him and explain to him that he has family on Krakoa when he's waiting for him when he's ready. Now we get into a list and definition of Omega level mutants. Omega level mutant is a mutant whose dominant power is deemed to register or reach an undefinable upper limit of that power's specific classification. For example, both Magneto and Forge are the most powerful mutants of their power types on the planet Earth, magnetism and technopathy, respectively. But what makes Magneto and not Forge an Omega level mutant is that the upper limit of Forge's measurable powers could hypothetically be surpassed, and in fact has by multiple humans on the planet. While the upper limit of Magneto's power cannot be surpassed in any measurable fashion. Note, Omega level is a classification of a single mutant power. While it is quite common that mutants manifest multiple powers, only one is normally of Omega level. For example, while Jean Grey is both a telepath and a telekinetic, she's only an Omega level telepath. And we get a list of known Omega level mutants along with their aliases, their Omega power, and their alliance, and who they're allied with. Jamie Braddock, a Monarch, has quantum reality manipulation abilities and is unaligned with anyone. Iceman, temperature manipulation in a negative way, aligned with Krakoa. Elixir, biokinesis, Krakoa. Jean Grey, Marvel Girl, telepathy, Krakoa. Legion, David Haller, the son of Professor X. Power manifestation, unknown alliance. Magneto, magnetism. Proteus, psionic reality manipulation, Krakoa. Mr. M has matter manipulation, an unknown alliance, though last I saw he was dead, so. Storm has weather manipulation and is alive with Krakoa. Exodus has an Omega has Omega level telekinesis and has no listed alliance with anyone. Kid Omega, Quentin Quire, most recently of the West Coast Adventures, is an Omega level telepath and is aligned with Krakoa. Franklin Richards has universal reality manipulation and is aligned with humanity. Also, you have Gabriel Summers, or Vulcan, energy manipulation, aligned with Krakoa. And finally, Hope Summers, or just Hope, power manipulation, aligned with Krakoa. Omega Protocol. While it is believed that a greater dynamo is possible through collective means, it is a current priority for the mutant nation of Krakoa to protect and nurture its greatest natural resource, Omega-level mutants. All efforts are to be expended in order to secure the future of the state. One people, one tribe, one family. Okay. And back in the Krakoan habitat in Jerusalem, Magneto's finished his tour with the ambassadors. We learn just who the ambassadors are as the cuckoos have been in their heads. The host ambassador from Israel is ex-military and doesn't really care for the other ambassadors or Magneto, for that matter. The rest are plants, however. Ma Mingyu is the head of the state science office for China. Both he and influential members of Parliament are eager to agree to our terms. They see the political and scientific opportunity that the mutants' asymmetry represents. Next is Jean-Pierre Cole, who is an ambassador, though he bought said ambassadorship with his private sector pharmaceutical money. He'll agree to the terms so long as he's allowed special access to the drugs, which Cole believes is a win-win. Natalia Volok is a Red Sky senior operator who would have never agreed with their terms. It's even more true now that she knows that the others would. Walter Repion is an agent of Strike. Doesn't really care about any of it. Whole thing, he's just there to keep an eye on Riley Marshall, ex-Shield and Sword Black Ops agent, who has another affiliation and is actively fighting with telepathy. He also brought a weapon, which Magneto promptly disassembled with his powers. Because, when you might possibly be dealing with someone somebody who has magnetic powers, or at least the ally there of someone with magnetic powers, bring a weapon that is almost primarily made of metal. Great idea. He swears, however, he claims it was for his protection, and he wasn't going to use it. And Magneto gives a speech which is largely prompted at Repion and Marshall. Some would be offended at a wolf presenting as a sheep, but I have learned hard lessons from your kind, so I know the truth. You are all wolves. It is good that you are here, all of you, as you really are, so you can run home and tell your masters what you have learned. I want you to tell them. Charles Xavier has made an offer, one full of grace and brotherly love, but one that is also written in stone. This is not a negotiation. Things will be different now, and the sooner you realize the finality of your situation and the inevitability of ours, the sooner you will learn to be grateful for the things we are so generously giving you. And Repion asks what he sounds like, and if Magneto's aware of what he sounds like, and Magneto simply says he does, and it feels good to finally say it. He then gives us he's then asking if he summoned them all there to threaten him. He goes, no. I just want you to understand the fact that you have new gods. The issue ends with a quote credited to Magneto. I have a new word for the lexicon of man, Krakoa, and in the future, when you speak it, make sure you do so softly and with proper deference, for we will be listening. And that is where the issue ends. So, some theories, which obviously came out of the beginning of this. First off, the hatchery, or rather the cradle, is how dead characters shown in various various promotional materials for House and Powers of X, as well as the covers for post House and Powers of X titles will be returning. There's Havoc, almost all the New Mutants line up. Xavier. Okay, now here's another theory that I really don't think is the case, but yeah, I'll pay it some lip service just say yes, I am aware of the theory, and yeah. The theory being that Xavier or X, but I think he's decided he's back to being Professor X or Professor Xavier. There's a theory that Xavier is actually the Maker, the who Reed Richards from the Ultimate Universe, having crossed over into the primary universe, or the 616 universe, and having after having become a villain in his home universe, and becoming even more of one here. I really doubt it, though. I will admit that yes, Xavier now and the Maker do have a similar aesthetic: black bodysuit, silver techie helmet, so I can see it. But the Maker's also being utilized is potentially being utilized in a different title at the moment. So yeah, no. Um, Now this is something I've kind of been thinking about. That is that the X-Men we saw in this issue aren't actually the X-Men, rather replicas made by Krakoa in the Cradle. And if that's the case, that begs the question: where are the X-Men? So that's it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. This week, we'll see about everything else this week. There will not be a movie review this weekend. You can say that much. Wednesday, we will be doing the comic book roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal are in the description box down below. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I put new content. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.